Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making this easy chain loop vest. To start, you are going to need some 12 ply yarn, a 5.5mm hook, a 4.5mm hook, and some stitch markers. First, we're going to need to make a slip knot, insert our hook, and chain 14. Once you've chained 14, you'll need to block off that last stitch, do one more chain up, and then insert your hook into the second stitch from the hook. From there we're going to do single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2. Just continue doing this all the way down until you have 14 single crochets. Once you've reached the end, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to do back loop single crochets. So you can see that there's a little V there in the stitches. So you're going to go into the V that's furthest away from your body. So as you can see there, insert your hook, yarn over again, pull through 2. Now just keep doing back loop single crochets until you finish the row. Once you've reached the end of that row, we're going to do what we did last time, chain up 1, turn our work, and continue our back loop single crochets. This is going to be the repeating pattern now, so just keep doing rows of back loop single crochets. I did 59, so just keep going until it can reach halfway around your body. Another suggestion I would make is to measure a jumper or a top that you already have that you like the fit of, and try to make it even up with that. 59 rows. If you're making a small to medium, this would be approximately the right number for you as well. Now we are going to grab our 5.5mm hook and we're going to do a row of single crochets across the top. So chain up one, and now you're going to need to put a single crochet into every row that we've done. So you should have 59 single crochets. So as you can see here, each row there is a raised part and a divot part. You're going to need to insert into both the raised part and the divot part to make sure you get all of the rows. This is a bit tricky because you just have to find a spot to insert your hook, but as long as you're doing it into every raised part and every divot part, you should be fine. Now that we have finished that row, we're going to need to find the middle stitch of the row. So you can do this by counting or manually lining up all of the stitches together. Now that we've found our middle stitch, we're going to insert a stitch marker so we can keep track of it, and then we're going to count 5 stitches on both sides of it and put a stitch marker into every 5th stitch. This is where we're going to put our loop chain stitches, so we want to keep track of them and make sure they're going in a straight line. So to make them even, just count 5 stitches, pick a side first and then do the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put a stitch marker in that stitch. Now just keep going until you've got them in every 5th stitch, going all the way along. Now that we've finished counting out all the stitches, we're going to do a chain up of 1, turn our work, and get started on our second row. So you can see here that there is a stitch marker on the 3rd stitch, and that's where we're going to do our chain stitch loop. But for the first 2 stitches, we're going to do a half double crochet. So to do a half double crochet, you yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. In this 3rd stitch, we're still going to do a half double crochet, but instead of going on to the next stitch, we're now going to do 8 chain stitches. So there you go. So you've got to do 8 chain stitches. Once you've done 8, you need to find a spot into that half double crochet that we just did to insert your hook. So you find 2 stitches to insert into, try to go right in between if you can, and then we're going to do a slip stitch. This is just going to connect the bottom of the 8 chains to make a loop. Now you're going to continue by doing a half double crochet into the next 4 stitches. So you'll see we're going to do one of those chain loop stitches on every 5th stitch. So do 4 normal half double crochets, and when we get to the 5th one, we're going to still do a half double crochet, but we're going to do 8 chains and make it into a loop. This will be the continuing pattern for every even numbered row. So this is row 2, so row 2 will be this pattern, row 4, row 6, row 8, etc. Now just keep going till you get to the end of the row. Once you get to the end, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to need to do a single crochet into every stitch going all the way back along. So it's going to sort of smooth out all of the gaps caused by our chain loop stitches. Once you finish that row, it should be looking a little something like this. Now to continue on, we're going to chain up 1 and turn our work. And we're going to continue, now that it's row 4, it's an even number, so we're going to do the chain stitch loops again. So you're going to do 2 half double crochets to get us to that first chain loop stitch, and then you're just going to continue on. So you should be doing the chain loop at the same point in each row to make sure that they're going to line up so that you can link them all together. We're just going to continue doing that pattern with every even row being the half double crochet loop stitch row and every odd row being a row of single crochets. So just continue doing this until you reach approximately where you want your armpits to be, or the V in your neck, whichever comes first. For me, I lined up my neck V with my armpits so that it would all be the same. you've got that first section done, which for me was 15 rows until it almost reached my armpits, some of the rows are going to come to an end, so we need to mark off those rows that are going to come to an end. I'm putting a stitch marker into the first column of loop stitches and the last column of loop stitches, as well as the middle column. So you'll see here you need the two edges and the middle. Once you've done that, we're going to turn our work and we're going to do a row where we skip the loop stitches of those marked off rows. So we're just going to do half double crochets until we get to the second loop column, which is the one, not this one that's marked off, it'll be the next one. So you're just going to skip this one, just do a regular half double crochet, keep going till you get to the next column and do your normal loop stitch. Now that we're up to our next column, we're just going to do our 8 chains as normal to do our loop stitch, and then we're going to continue on the rest of the row doing our normal loop stitches every 5 half double crochets, but we're also going to skip the middle stitch and the last stitch, as you'll see where the stitch markers are. So now you can see we've reached our middle stitch marker. So now we're going to just do a half double crochet into that stitch, and we're not going to do our 8 chains. Now keep going along the rest of the row doing our normal chain loop stitches into all of the columns except for that last column where the stitch marker is. And when you get up to that last stitch marker, just do a half double crochet like we've done for the other stitch markers. Once you finish that row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to need to link up all of the loops and those 3 rows that have a stitch marker. So take your bottom loop, put the loop above it through it and pull it up. So taking the loop above, putting it through the bottom loop and pulling it up. As you can see there, they all just connect together, and then we're going to put a stitch in the top to make them all lie flat. Once you've done that, we're going to do our usual row single crochets. So single crochet into that first stitch, and now you're going to need to single crochet through the loop and then into the stitch behind it and do a single crochet. This is going to flatten the loop out. So for the next one, go through the loop again and insert into the back and then do a single crochet. So you need to do 2 single crochets through the loop, and this will just help to hold it a little bit open and make sure that it's not too narrow. So now we're going to keep going with our single crochets like we normally do, but you're going to need to loop up the 2 end columns and the middle column to do the single crochets into each column. Once you get to the end, you need to chain 1 and turn your work. Now we're going to work on the armpit portion. So we're going to do a slip stitch into the first 5 stitches. So you need to insert your hook, yarn over and then pull through. Once you've done 5, you'll need to chain 1, and now we're going to do a half double crochet into the next stitch like we would normally be doing for this row. So half double crochet there, and then we're going to skip that next column of loop stitches. So where that loop stitch is there, we're just going to do a single crochet and skip it like we did a couple of rows ago. And now just continue and do the loop stitches when you get to them for the next ones. It's just that first one in this row that we're going to skip. Now keep going across this row until you get to the middle stitch. Once we get to the middle, we're going to do a decrease, and then we're going to start going back the other way. This is going to help us make a V in our neckline. To stitch 2 together, you're going to need to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, and then insert straight into that next stitch, and then pull through all 4 loops on your hook. So this is for half double crochets. Then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and now we're going to do our row of single crochets, but we're going to do a decrease first. So insert your hook, yarn over, and then straight into that next stitch, yarn over, and then pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Now just continue doing single crochets as usual until you get to the end, and we're going to do another decrease. As you can see, we're coming up to a point where we need to connect our loops into the body of our jacket, so make sure that you connect all of the loops going all the way up before you stitch in that top loop, otherwise you'll have a bunch of free loops hanging around in the middle of nowhere. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and do 2 single crochets through the middle of that top loop to join them all on to the top. And now we're going to do a decrease, so insert your hook and then straight into the next one, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Now we're going to turn around and do another decrease. So this time we're doing the half double crochet decrease that we did first last time, so yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, and then straight into that next stitch. Now you're just going to continue along the rest of the row as normal. Now that we're coming up to the end of that row, you can see that this lot of loop stitches we're going to have to skip. So you're not going to do the loop stitches now, we're just going to do half double crochet so that we can stitch our loop stitch into the base. Then we're going to do a decrease into those last 2 stitches. Once we've done that, we're going to turn our work like last time and do a decrease of the single crochets going across. When we come up to any loop stitch rows that need to be finished off, we need to remember to join all of the loops, and then we'll do the 2 single crochets into that top loop to keep it down. Now that we've reached the other end, we're going to do our decrease like we did last time. going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to do a decrease again with our half double crochets and continue along the rest of the row as we would normally do. Now we're down to only doing 2 lots of loop stitches. Now that we've reached almost the end of this row, we're going to do another decrease into the last 2 stitches. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to do a decrease again with the single crochets and then continue along the rest of that row as normal. Now that we're at the end of this row, we're actually not going to decrease. This is the armpit side in case you're losing track, so we're going to stop decreasing in the armpit, but we are going to continue decreasing on the V-neck portion. So now we're going to go in a straight line up to the top. So don't decrease on the armpit side anymore. So going back the other way, we're also not going to decrease. This will be the remaining pattern for the rest of that chest portion. So I'm just going to let this footage play because I feel like you probably know what's going on by now. So I'll leave it here at normal speed in case you are struggling a bit so that you can see how to do it. But I will join back in when we make changes to the very top of the neckline. At this point I decided that I wanted to add a bit more length to this section of the neckline, so I actually put in a stitch marker to remind myself where I started going straight, but I stopped decreasing now and I just kept going straight up for a little bit longer. This was because I felt like the neck of my V wouldn't be long enough and it would be a bit more cropped than I wanted, but this is totally up to you. If you wanted a high V-neck, you could just finish it off here. If you wanted a lower V-neck, just keep going a little bit more like I'm doing. You can see here this is what my neckline looked like when I'd finished it. Now we're going to need to do it all over again on the other side. Because of the direction that the stitches go, we're going to need to start in the middle rather than starting on the side. So to join on, you need to make a slip knot, insert your hook through that middle stitch where you want to join on, put it over your slip knot, pull through and chain up one. Now we're going to turn our work and we're going to work exactly the same way that we've been doing so far, but we're going to be doing it sort of in reverse. So just make sure that you're copying what you did on the other side but you'll be coming at it from a different side. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll let this bit of footage play through so that it'll give you an idea of what I mean. You're basically doing the same thing, you'll just be doing the decreases on the opposite side of the panel because you need to do the other armpit. can see here we've got the back panel, and we've also got the front panel with that V for our neck. And now we're going to need to stitch it all together. So to do that, you need to make sure that you put the good sides together. So I'll flip that over so that the back sides are facing outwards for both of the panels, and you're just going to need to stitch it together on each edge and at the top of the arms. Now you can see here that it's all stitched together. So now we're going to add some stitching around the neck and around the armpits just to clean it up a bit. To do that, you're going to need to find the halfway point along the back of the neckline. You can do this by matching up stitches like I'm doing, or you can count them, whichever you find easier. Now I'm putting in a stitch marker just so I don't lose my place, but if you don't have stitch markers, you could just stick your hook in there so that you don't lose that place while you're grabbing your yarn. Now you need to make a slip knot with your yarn. And join it in through that back middle stitch. Then pull it through and chain up one. Now we're going to do single crochets going all the way around the neckline. So this should be fairly easy for most of it. The stitches are already there for the back part. It's going to get a little bit more complicated when we get down to the neckline, as there's not a clear of a stitch, but you'll just have to work your hook into where you feel like the stitches should be, and if you make it too tight or too loose, you can just undo that section and do it again. We're making our way into the more complicated area. You can see there that there's not a super clear stitch, but it's not too hard to find a gap. The best thing to do is try to do a single crochet through every row. So you'll do one single crochet in each row that we did going across. Makes it a bit cleaner, but like I said, you'll just have to find a spot where you think the hook will fit and do it in there. On the corners, like I just did, I stitched two together. That's optional depending on how tight you want your neckline, but in that corner piece you can do 2 single crochets stitched together just to make sure that it's pulled tight enough in the corner. When you get to the middle of the V-neck, we're going to stitch 3 together. So we're going to insert our hook into 3 of the stitches, one on either side of the center stitch and the center stitch, and stitch them all together. It's just like how we did the decreases earlier, but instead of just doing 2 stitches together, we're going to do 3 stitches together. This is going to make sure that the neckline doesn't gape open. Now just keep going all the way around the neckline until you get to the middle back, where we started. Once you make it back to the middle, we're just going to join on to that first stitch with a slip stitch, and then we're going to turn our work. Now we're going to go back around with another row, this time going into the back loop only to do our slip stitches. So you could see there that there was a front loop and a back loop, and we're going to insert only into the back loop. Just go all the way around now and do a single crochet into every stitch, making sure to do a 2-stitch decrease on the shoulders and a 3-stitch decrease in the neckline. Now that we're back on the start, you need to join on to that first stitch with a slip stitch. So we're just joining on there. And now you can chain up one, and you can either stop here and just have the 2 rows, or you can continue on and do more rows. It's totally up to you, it's totally personalizable. Whether you want to do multiple rows or you just want to leave it at 1 or 2, it just depends on how big of a neckline you want to have, so I'll leave that one up to you. Now we have to finish up the armholes. So to do this, we're just going to make a slip knot, and we're going to join our yarn into the middle of the under portion of the armpit. You can see that bit that's sort of going to be right in your armpit. That's where we're going to join on our yarn. So insert your hook, put on the loop, pull through, and yarn over for a chain. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet into every stitch or every row, going all the way around, just like we did for the neckline. When you get to the corner where you're going to start going vertically, you want to make sure you do a decrease, and you're also going to want to do a decrease at the shoulder. This is to make sure that it doesn't puff out. Once you've reached the end, we're going to chain up 1 and we're going to cut our yarn. If you want to add more rows around the armpit, you definitely can. I chose to only do 1 just to make it nice and clean, but add as many as you want. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them below and I will get back to you. I really appreciate your support and I hope you have a lovely day.